and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, with the City of Hampton's Communications and Marketing Department. And today we're going to talk a little bit about some special city programs that you may or may not have heard of. But recently, Hampton was named an All-America City, and in particular, 3 programs were spotlighted, and one of those was reduction in our dropout rate. So my guest, Myra Chambers, is going to tell us all about the city's efforts. And you know, I think this was one of the things that even I didn't know. And when I started putting all those numbers together for the All-America City competition, I was like, holy cow. We get so busy doing that I think sometimes we forget to stop and say, here's where we are, here's what we've done. This is huge progress.
Yeah, it's great progress, and we're very excited.
So over that 5-year period that ended in 2003, Hampton City Schools reduced their dropout rate from 10.1%, which is actually, I did a lot of cutting of the numbers, fairly standard for urban cities, for school divisions that have a high number of at-risk kids and lower income kids, down to 3.8.
Right.
Holy cow. Myra, how do we do that? Because I know you were instrumental.
Well, I think that when it became a system priority for us, it was just a huge need. We want every student to have a viable credential to go on with life, to be highly trained, highly skilled, and really contribute back to our community. So it was important that all students come out of school with a diploma or a GED, and so we looked at it and tried a systemic approach. A number of things that we do. We do programs within the high schools, and then we also have an alternative campus at Lee, where we try to help supplement the needs of the district. So,
and I'm just going to interrupt about your background. You were at the beginning, at some point of this period, the 2008 to 2013, you were a principal at Hampton High, and then you shifted then to be in charge of the alternative learning. So you saw both sides of that.
Well, and I came into Hampton High, and the second year I was there, I was labeled in the media, the school was labeled in the media as a dropout factory, and it was a huge...
Except for the IB program. So you have the IB program, and you have
the school overall and the graduation rate labeled it as a dropout factory. And that was a huge blow to not only the school, but just the district, because we saw we were very successful with our kids. But there were some aspects to it that we really realized that needed to be worked on. And the one thing, I think one of the core things was tracking children. Good data in gives you good data out. Garbage in, garbage out. And so one of the things we really worked on was making sure we followed every single student. If a student moved out of the district and was in the state of Virginia, at that time, we weren't really tracking to make sure that they enrolled in their next district. And we started to really note, where did students move? Did they move to Roanoke? If they moved out of state? We made sure that we confirmed that.
So some of it, maybe it wasn't even a dropout rate of 10%. It was, we know these people left and we didn't get an easy confirmation that they re-enrolled somewhere.
And once the kid left, they're very hard to find. So social media really took a huge role in that, to Facebook kids, to keep track of them online. At that point, I think we had MySpace, just to find out where they were and what they were doing. So that was one piece that was really important. Then we saw a need. Each school is very different. You know, all the high schools are very, very unique. They really are. And they all have very, very unique needs. And so what the school district did was they created a position. The first 2 years, they had 2 grad specialists that worked on 2 high schools. And what their whole job was to do was to follow the seniors and to make sure that the seniors didn't fall through the cracks. And as we know, sometimes seniors kind of fall apart.
That's a tough year. It really is.
It is. And so
especially if you're not, if you're close to the edge and you don't think you're going to make it anyway, you get this, why? Why should I try?
Why should I try? And sometimes they feel like they've dug themselves a hole.
I'm 18, you can't make me. I mean, we've all heard the teenager excuses.
Yes, well, you've had a senior, recently. The grad specialists concentrated on 2. So we have grad specialist Keisha Samuels, and she concentrated on Kickotan and Phoebus. And then we had Dana Patterson that concentrated on Hampton High and Bethel High School. And so what we did at that point was they followed every senior. So if a senior came up missing or missed 10 days or was in a situation where they became homeless, which is not uncommon, that they intervened and helped get them the support to keep them going with school. And then that meant coming to pick you up. If that meant getting your clothing and moving you to a new location, those grad specialists did it. We broadened that program in Hampton, so now it has 4 high schools. And so they have a grad specialist for each high school. They have Della Jordan at Bethel, and they have Keisha Samuels at Phoebus. They have Lisa Incremenius at Kickatan, and they have Dana Patterson at Hampton High. And so those grad specialists, their whole job is to make sure that every kid stays on track. We also started an online recovery program, and that meant that kids who had failed classes could retake them within the school online. And it is, if you're repeating a class online, it's usually faster than sitting in the class 180 days.
Well, because you know what you already know. I mean, that's the thing is,
that's right.
If you have to retake a class, right, you have to retake the entire class, not just the parts you messed up on. So if you could jump ahead, and I think that's such a disincentive to kids. You know, I'm not going to sit through this again with a bunch of kids who are a year younger than me.
Right. So that, I think that had a huge impact, because now we were able to intervene with students at all grade levels. Rather than waiting until their senior year when they're way behind, now we can get freshmen and sophomores and juniors and have them retake those classes immediately and stay on track.
Right, and if they do it quickly, the part that they did remember is still there.
That's right, that's right, that's right. The schools also formulated their own programs to help intervene with students. So students, you know, they may be behind, but each school formulated a program within the class for the teachers to work with them to try to catch up. Yes, I know you've missed this much work, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to redo it. And yes, you may not get the same grade, but we're keeping you in the game.
Right.
And so you saw a lot of programs like that. Hampton also looked at its attendance policy. We had a pretty cut and dry, if you missed so many days of school, if you went to 6, you failed the class automatically if you didn't have an appeal. With students that are really at risk, students that are homeless, students that are in very difficult situations where they may not have a lot of adult support at home, having that formality, there are a number of students that don't have health insurance, that didn't have doctor's notes. Those types of situations, the kids automatically fail the class. And so Hampton looked at that policy and decided that there was a different way we could intervene with students, have them come to school, make up the time, rather than just fail the class. So I think that overall, we try to look at it from every aspect, within the school, individually, and through policy.
And you know, that's such an important thing too, because, and I know I didn't think of this on my own, you said it, but you disincentivize kids to come back. If you put all these hurdles in front of them, oh, you failed, oh, you've missed too many days, why should they stick around?
Well, and it's a great stigma. You know, you come back into school, and when you have both adults and kids saying, hey, where you been? And you're failing everything. It's not a real positive situation. Like, kids aren't dying to go back through the door to say, oh, yeah, I'm great. I've dropped out, now I want to come back. And so it's important that the schools try to make a safe environment to say, yes, I understand you have these challenges. Let's look beyond what the situation is and what can we do to get you back in here to try to get you done. Because the important thing is we need every citizen in Hampton to have a viable profession and to pay taxes and have a nice house and be able to take care of themselves. And, that makes a great community.
It is, and that's when I looked at the numbers and the change in the dropout rate. So if you take those number of kids every year over those 5-year period and you multiply them out, the difference between a kid who doesn't get a high school diploma or a GED costs their society, costs their city money in terms of aid, in terms of incarceration, in terms of a whole bunch of different things. And a kid who graduates from high school or gets a GED, gets some technical training, pays. And so, you know, when you look at what it costs, and it did cost to add grad specialists, to add some of these programs versus what you as a community are getting out of it, it seems so clear cut, like actually proven numbers.
Exactly, and it's a long-term process. This is not a quick fix. It took Hampton High, just my little school, and everybody, every faculty member, they knew that was the value of the school. We all agreed we had to do it, and it was something that it was not deserved. That school is not, it's a great school, it's not deserving of that. And, you know, the last year I was here, I was so proud to stand at a school that had the highest graduation rate in the city of Hampton and the largest graduating class. I mean, and it can be done, but you really have to have all hands on board. You have to have everybody in it. And you have to look at education a different way.
Well, and I think that's hard. And I will say there are a number of people who pay taxes and who maybe went to school years and years ago when it was a different population. The expectations are different. And they say, I don't want to pay for that. Why do you have to be the parents? Make the parents do their job? Is that realistic?
Well, and I think you have to look at a lot of challenges, especially when we had the economic crisis in this country. We had families facing, people, I work in adult ed. I had adult ed students that had been employed for 25, 30 years, and their company was taken over. New HR departments, new corporate policies, and although they did a great job, they didn't have their GED or diploma. They were let go. Because now we have so many unemployed, and we have many highly skilled or highly trained folks that are unemployed. They had the pick of who they wanted. And so I'm starting to see it from a perspective, if we can't sit back and should on people, we can't judge that what a person's going through. I'm not walking, in their shoes. And so my job is to help you, and my job is to do what I can. I'm not here to enable, but I'm here to help you. What support can I give you to get you back on your feet, to get you a sense of purpose? And so I think, the approach that we took at our school was just, I'm not here to say the parents should be doing this or the parents should be doing that. What can I do to help this kid? And I think if we approach it from that perspective and stop waiting and shoulding on everybody else, we can get it done that way.
Right, because the effect is there's more kids out the door in a bad way, and you can't change that, at least not quickly, not easily. Whereas if you have to go pick up a kid in the morning, and not necessarily you personally, or if you have to get them a bus pass, or if you have to do things get them clothes so they're not embarrassed. I mean, whatever it takes has sort of been the way Hampton City Schools has done that.
That's right, and if that means they need an ID, then we take them to the DMV. If that means they need to get a birth certificate, well, it's a short trip to Richmond, or we send it through the mail if it's out of state. If they need, they're living in Newport News, which a number of students, we have a number of students that are in neighboring communities. I mean, I've gone many a morning to Portsmouth because a student lost housing in Hampton, and Portsmouth is where they could be housed. And if that's what it takes to keep you in school and keep you going. So in all of the grad specialists, all of the schools kind of have that approach. And I think that's critical, is that you've just got to look beyond the barriers and what can you do to make it work. We had a grad specialist, Ms. Patterson, last year. She drove to South Carolina to give a SOL. We had to get special permission from the state.
Oh my gosh.
Just so that kid could graduate with a diploma from Hampton High. But she did that. So she and Danielle Wilson, a teacher at the campus of Lee, drove to South Carolina and gave an SOL so that kid could get a diploma. And that's what it's all about, is really going that extra mile to help. And it pays off because people spread the word and they said, yeah, they'll help you in Hampton. And that's a really wonderful thing.
Well, and it is. And I think one of the things is because Hampton does have a fairly large population of lower income students, when I cut the numbers and I looked at the graduation rate for kids on free lunch, Hampton's not a dropout rate, because the graduation rate's tricky because that assumes 4 years and a standard diploma and all that kind of stuff. But the dropout rate among low-income free lunch kids is much lower than even a lot of our suburban, more affluent districts because you focus on every kid.
That's right.
And that's such a difference. Some schools, if you don't get pulled along with the mainstream average, you get lost.
Right.
And here, you've really, really done a remarkable job of reaching. You probably could rattle off a whole bunch of names.
And you do. And what's the beautiful thing is that kids now refer other kids. And literally at the campus at Lee, I have students bring other students into my door and say, Ms. Chambers, this kid dropped out a year ago, and we need to get a GED, or we need to get the diploma done. And now they are our best recruiters. I have a wonderful student that I work with at Lee, and she brought a student that had been a runaway, had a child, and just kind of was in a hopeless situation, and brought her in and said, Miss, they can get your GED done. And sure enough, she passed her GED and is doing really well. And I think that we just have to reach out and say to anybody, just come on in, drop in instead of dropping out. Just drop into us and we'll try to help you. And so that's the whole purpose of the Campus Aaliyah, is really to create a safe environment where kids can walk back in. We're not here to judge you. We just want to help you, and come on back in and let's enroll yourself back in school and let's get it done. You want a diploma? We got 69 diplomas this year from our little campus. We serve about 600 students, grades 3 through 12. And 8 different, we have a number of different programs there, and so we had 69 graduates, 3 honors, 3 advanced studies diplomas, and
that's pretty darn amazing.
It's amazing little school, and it's one more piece of the puzzle to really help Hampton City Schools.
Well, that's the other thing I was going to say is there's the dropout risk and certainly the most at-risk students, and those are the ones you have the experience with. But there's also the kids who just sort of muddle along and don't find their way, who might have dropped out, and there's a variety of programs, vocational, regional, and just career academies within the school. So part of this puzzle has also been keeping kids engaged in their education and making sure their education is relevant to them and that they can see that.
Yeah, and I think one thing is if we can hook kids early and we can really keep them in the game, and then having that personal relationship with students, really having an adult that kind of tracks you and helps you. The career academies have been a great help, and I think they're an attractive part of the high schools to have students come out with a vocation ready and a real goal-driven education. And so I think
not every kid wants to read books and take tests and have that, kind of traditional liberal arts kind of, education. There's other stuff out there. Yes, you want them to have a certain level of, ability to read and do math and function in society, but people have this wide range of skills, and they shouldn't all have to go through the same little tunnel.
Yeah, so we try to maybe individualize the hole that we stick our pegs in.
That's right. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming and sharing this. I get really excited every time I talk to you because I think you are doing amazing things, and Hampton City Schools is doing amazing things with our teenagers.
Well, and thank you for letting me be here.
Thanks.
All right.
And thank you for watching. I hope you've learned a little bit more about what Hampton City Schools is doing in the high schools to keep kids engaged, and also one of the key reasons that Hampton was named one of the 10 All-America cities in the country this year. Thank you for watching.